Well, welcome back to the garage. So, I'm doing a follow-up video to this, the price of restoring a car. But this is also going to be on the part, because there's a lot of talk in there about there was rich people that were causing it to be very expensive. And that really isn't the truth. There's a lot of factors. I'm going to pick five because, well, just it'll make a video that's not 3 hours long because there are a lot of factors that go into this. Now, you know, and I'm going to try to keep it just to the automobile business and the classic cars in that realm. So the first thing that really has escalated the pricing and truly has made it where it has just gone parabolic on certain models is these auctions and also the specialized dealers that have classic cars that are mainly on consignment. Now, that in itself doesn't really drive up the pricing. Granted, the consignment places and the auction, there is an extra cost for selling a car. At auction, it's 10 on each side, 10 for the seller, 10 for the buyer. And consignment marks it up a certain percentage over the price that you want. But it's the ancillary business that goes along with this. It's called financing. And the part of this is that it's not rich people, it's your neighbor, it's your friend at work. It's the guy you see at the car show. They can go out and finance a classic car now for, 12 years. Literally, you can do it for 12 years. Here, this is just an example. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I mean, as a finance person, a classic car is a great thing to finance because, A, people usually will make payments for that because it's something they love. B, if they don't and you repoing it, you could easily make your money back because they usually hold their value. They have to have classic car insurance on it, or at least good insurance on it. And those classic car really doesn't argue very much with the pricing of a car if something bad happens. And they always will work with the owners because, it is a competitive market and they can't afford to start driving people away over bad stories. So that is number one that has really driven the price up. And of course, that brings everything else up because if the price of the cars go up, the price of the parts will go up along with it. It kind of follows along and not just scarcity. There's a high demand car like let's say a Challenger, an old Challenger. Its parts become more valuable because there are more of them getting fixed and there's more of them being done. So it's a kind of a vicious cycle, in my opinion, on that. The second one is something that most people don't think about. Or when they hear the story of that Stellantis just filed a trademark for CUDA. Oh my God, the CUDA's coming back this year. No. It is not. This has gone on before. So, I found stories here. There's a lot of stories. It's been marked over and over again. Companies refresh trademarks when something is not in production every 10 years or so. If you keep producing the product, the trademark stays active. If you do not produce the product, the trademark can go away. The thing with this trademark and why it makes it more expensive for you is that it helps Stellantis at this point keep charging royalty fees to resellers of parts for those cars. Stellantis still has the trademark on any type of Pentastar, though it's only used on the parts, and that's from legacy because way back when Mercedes merged or bought Chrysler, they didn't want to have to spend all the extra money to retool everything, take off the Pentastar off the parts, because that actually would get very expensive and it'd be kind of a silly expense. But they don't use the Pentastar as a company symbol anymore. So that little Pentastar on the side of your car, if you have a pre-72, It really doesn't mean anything, but they can still charge, the 10 to 20% to the producer of the reproduction part because it has that on there. Same thing the CUDA name. If you make anything that is for a Barracuda, if it says CUDA on the dash, if it, the CUDA nameplates, anything that relates to that car that will be CUDA, they have to get paid for that being used. That is literally business 101. The car isn't coming back, but it is a way for them to keep on charging. And Stellantis is the worst of the big three. Because then you have Ford and General Motors do the same thing. They refresh their trademarks because they paid for them once. They're not going to let them go away. They may never use them again, but there's restoration parts that will bear those names. The Japanese are pretty bad. The Germans are a mixed bag. Actually, BMW is probably one of the easiest ones to get reproduction parts for. A lot of stuff just comes out of Turkey. It might even have a part number on it, but it won't have a Rondell. I mean, that's how loose that is. But Stellantis is horrific. FCA was horrific. So they protect that intellectual property pretty hard, and you pay for it. The third one, this is very obvious, and you really have to think back to high school economics. If you took it, if you didn't, and this is a quick economic lesson, it's called supply and demand. They built less than 11,000 Hemi cars from 1964 to 1971. That's including race cars. So of that 11,000, let's just say 8,000 survive. Right? We're going to use round numbers, make it easy on my head. Okay? Of that 8,000 that survive, that actually are viable, let's say 80% of those are, actually usable at this point. So that's 6,400. Now, if only 1% of our population of 330 million people, now I'm not even thinking of worldwide buyers because it's a Hemi car, just the United States, 1% of 330 million, it's 3.3 million people. That's 1%. And of that, half of those people want to have a Hemi car. That's still way more than Hemi cars are available. Hence, scarcity. There's a lot of cars like that where scarcity will drive the price up, especially if it's desirable scarcity. I mean, I don't see anybody running out and buying Gremlins and paying $100,000 for them, but they're scarce. But there isn't a giant demand for them. The fourth one, kind of about the rich guy thing, but also it's your neighbor down the street or the guy at the car show. Classic cars have intrinsic value. They are a solid object. You can touch them, you can feel them, you can store them away, and they actually are pretty easy to sell. And because of reason one, they become even easier to sell. Because they are easy to sell and they're solid and you can store them away, and they literally hold value better than paper money, because paper money just deflates through inflation. They actually benefit from inflation because they're an object of limited supply. It's a simple economic thing. Because of the way our economic policies are, the way that our money is, it makes that a very attractive investment, as they say. And plus, you get to use this investment and enjoy it and bring happiness to yourself. But at the end of the day, you can sell it and maybe just make your money back, which is better than putting it under your mattress because you will lose money, or even putting it in the bank because you're less than inflation. That money that you put in the bank is worth less than when you had it, and you got nothing from it. So that is a big thing. The final one, and it's my favorite group to pick on, but I have to because, well, they did a lot of this. It's baby boomers, and they're constant searching for their childhood. And this has been a very constant thing in our society since the 80s. That group was the first group to honestly make stuff from their childhood and their youth collectible. Honest to God, they're the ones that made baseball cards something. They're the ones that started having classic cars as investments and things to hold on to and having collections of them. The baby boomers, with the toys from the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, all these things. I mean, I'm not faulting them for it because it was a reminiscent of a time where America was at its peak. But honestly, they are part of what caused the drive up in all this pricing. So when you have the emotional attachment to these things, you will go a little crazy buying things because it's a feel good thing. And feel good is very much a part of the human psyche. So those are my thoughts. Once again, I want to hear yours. Comment below. Tell me about what you've seen. Tell me about what your thoughts are on this. And if you got something to like it, subscribe it, share it. Those things down there. Just kind of help along here. And if you have a cool old car, I know it's covered, but see, engine or something fun to drive, which we'll be driving soon. Take it out. You'll make someone's day.